Discovering possibilities and potential with passion every day. This is a TPPN production. Welcome to the iPad Possibilities Podcast, episode number 63, Jailbreak Troubleshooting. Well, welcome to the studio episode of the iPad Possibilities Podcast. This is the Wednesday-Thursday episode where I take some time to discuss some things that are on my mind. And this week, I've gotten a lot of feedback about people wanting me to do some jailbreak shows, some jailbreak episodes. So I'm going to start off this as like a new series on jailbreaking and kind of letting everyone know what jailbreaking is and going really in depth onto why you'd want to jailbreak. But before we do that, first I just want to say jailbreaking is not as scary as it sounds, and it really isn't. It's a good experience, and today my hope is to basically put everybody at ease about jailbreaking and making everyone feel comfortable with it by letting you know what can go wrong and how you can fix the things that possibly could go wrong. So this episode today, to kick off the jailbreak segment, is to put you at ease and make you feel comfortable with the whole idea of jailbreaking. So first off, you might ask, what is jailbreaking? Well, jailbreaking it sounds all dangerous and all that kind of stuff, but all it is it's taking off kind of the restrictions Apple places upon your iPad, such as only being able to install App Store apps and different other restrictions that are just on there for whatever security concern Apple might hold, or just the concern of Apple wanting total control over your device. So jailbreaking unlocks that. It opens your device up to be able to do all of these extra functionality things that just aren't possible without jailbreaking. So the purpose of this episode is simply to put you at ease that jailbreaking, it's not, some big scary thing. I'm not sure if it's technically illegal or where it falls there, but really, we've been doing this for about 4 years with the iPhone, and it's something that many people like, and I think with the iPad, it really helps and enhances your experience, especially now with us being at only 3.2 versus the 4.0 operating system, which will add a great deal of features that may make it so I don't need a jailbreak anymore. But that's kind of the intro here. That's kind of what jailbreaking is and the purpose of this episode. So with that said, let's get into kind of the meat of this episode. So to start off, I wanted to just say, what can go wrong. And this is, going to be the troubleshooting is kind of backwards, where I'm starting with the problems and instead of beginning with all the things that how it all works and everything. But basically, what can go wrong? There's a couple things I had personally experienced. The first one is the endless reboot. This is where your iPad will just never boot up. It'll stay on the Apple logo forever and never stop. And in this case, the only thing you can do is really do a restore of your iPad. I'll get to that later. The second thing that I've noticed is your iPad can get locked up for a decent amount of time and get kind of slow. And this happens every now and then, and I'll get on to how you can fix this in a little bit here. And then this third one, and this is the one I experience most of the time, is the long boot up time. And that's kind of, the problems of jailbreaking, what can go wrong. You can also experience shorter battery life, just solely because you may be running more processes at the same time. You're going to be running more than one app at the same time, perhaps, and all those other things. So those are what can go wrong and how your iPad can be affected negatively in your using of it. So why can this happen, you may ask? The first reason is badly designed third-party apps, right? You don't have the App Store anymore. Well, you still have the App Store. Let me say again, you still have the App Store, but you also have access to apps that aren't allowed on the App Store. And some of these can do bad things to your iPad. So for instance, when the iPad was initially jailbroken, we had some apps that turned the iPad into a giant iPod Touch with all the icons miniaturized, and it was truly a giant iPod Touch. And this was fixed by simply respringing the home screen, the springboard as they call it, and that was just a badly designed iPhone app. And you have to just be careful on what you install. And the other thing as far as why this can happen is you may be running too many apps or processes at the same time. That can slow down your iPad and cause all those lockups and bad things that happen. So you may be asking, that's why this can happen. How do I fix these things? Well, the first thing I would recommend is just rebooting your iPad. Probably, once a day, do a little reboot there to clear off any processes and clear off different things. And you'll especially want to do this if you're having a locked up iPad where an app is just not behaving. I think a reboot would fix that. To do that, you simply hold the home key, the home button, the button you use to go to the home screen every time, and the sleep button up in the top right corner. That will close your screen off. Just hold both of those together for about 5-10 seconds, and it'll reboot your iPad. And that's something I do on a daily basis, just to clean up memory and those kinds of things that is necessary for most people that jailbreak. It really depends on the degree of what you're going to be doing with your jailbroken iPad. For instance, I have enabled virtual memory on my iPad, and that I've noticed it's great and enables me to run more apps without any memory crashes, but I do need to reboot my iPad more than I had in the past. So a forced reboot is something I think is necessary as far as fixing it and just maintaining a good solid iPad. So the next thing on how to fix, a troublesome jailbroken iPad is simply, if it's not booting up, if it feels to you that it's going to stay at that Apple logo forever in that forced reboot, let it try to boot up for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes on the jailbroken iPads, it may take that long. I've noticed personally, sometimes it does take that 5-10 minutes to boot up my iPad after I've jailbroken it and I was working on some different things with it. But sometimes it does need that long reboot, and sometimes it's really instant. It's within that 10, 20 second, time frame that you're used to. So it does vary on how long it takes to reboot, depending on what you're running on your iPad and all of those kind of concerns. So just let it boot up for about 5-10 minutes. I ran into this issue at PodCamp, Ohio, where if I yanked out that VGA adapter really quickly while I was running an application, it sent my iPad into that, what I thought was an endless reboot. I was getting ready to restore my iPad on the road with none of my, information there. And I was trying to do that, but I didn't have time to do it right away. So I just left my iPad on that Apple logo. And within 5 to 10 minutes, I just shut my lid on my case and opened it up, and behold, 5 to 10 minutes later, it was up and running. And this has happened a couple times now, where if you just leave it down, leave it trying the boot, it most of the time will boot up. It just may take a little bit longer. So 5 to 10 minutes is something that may happen. So that's one way to fix the problem, is just leave it alone. The iPad needs a little bit of rest and a little bit of all that kind of stuff. So let it boot up and all of those kinds of things. So another thing to look into is if your iPad's behaving weirdly, like for instance you have a Safari problem where you have some weird plugins installed, I'd take a look at the packages you have installed through Cydia. Now Cydia is kind of the jailbroken app store. If you open up Cydia and go to the packages tab, it'll show you what packages you have installed. And just kind of browse through the list and see if there's anything you've installed that may be causing problems with, your iPad. I've had listeners email me and ask about why this is happening. So I had him email me a list of his jailbroken packages, his apps that he's installed, and I found one that was interfering with Safari. So I just told him, hey, uninstall this, and his problem was fixed. So that's another way to fix some problems. Just look at what you actually have installed. Some things do mess up your iPad, so just look through the list and use your good common sense to figure out, hey, this might not be playing so well. This might be a badly designed plugin or something like that. So that's another thing to look into. And then the final thing to look look into, and if you're really having problems with your iPad, is restoring your iPad. Now, this is the great thing about the iPad. You're able to back up your iPad through iTunes. Just sync your iPad before you do this and back up your iPad. Most of your information will be saved that way. I recommend doing your contacts through Google, so it's all backed up wirelessly through Google, or if you use MobileMe, that's another fantastic way to back up your contacts. But have all your information backed up and simply restore your iPad. All you do is plug in your iPad and hit the restore button, and it will restore to the latest version of the operating system. And that's a great thing to do if you are running into issues. And this is the thing that I always tell the people, that jailbreaking is really not that scary. It's not going to be damaging to your iPad. And if anything does go wrong, you can always restore your iPad to its original condition. It just takes a couple minutes to do this, and you're back up and running. So really, there is nothing wrong. Nothing's going to go wrong with your iPad that it'll be in the state where it's just a brick and you can't do anything with it. So that should be a comfort to most people, that I can put it back if it didn't turn out how I wanted it to, and nothing, I'm able to do that. It's a great feature of the iOS, that you're able to simply restore it to its original state. And after you restore it, you're able to re-jailbreak it if you want. And I'll cover, how to jailbreak more in future episodes, but simply, download the Spirit Jailbreak app, and you can, jailbreak it that way. And it works great. And that's how you kind of fix up your iPad if it's been harmed by the jailbreaking process at all. So that is kind of the steps here. So we first had what can go wrong. You had the endless reboot, locked up iPad, long boot times. And this happens, as I said, bad apps, too many processes. And you can fix it by force rebooting it, letting it stand for 5 minutes, checking what you've installed, and simply restoring your iPad. And if you have questions about this, please email me at ipadpossibilities@gmail.com or call in to 209-542-iPad. Now, with that said, let me just get to, what experience should you expect on a jailbroken iPad? Well, first off, you should expect it to run fairly similar to how it is now. It may get slower a little bit, but not much. My experience has, most of the time, it's pretty fast. It's just as fast as my non-jailbroken iPad, and it's a better experience because I'm able to customize it, in a much greater degree. I'm able to run applications in the background. I'm able to use an app that I can change the brightness anywhere in the iPad. I don't have to go back to that settings app. I'm able to do all these great, fantastic things that you just can't do with a non-jailbroken iPad. And I'll cover all those great things that you can do with that iPad now that it's jailbroken in a future episode. But the experience you should expect is, very similar to what you have now. It should be running just as fast, and the only reason it would slow down is if you do certain things to your iPad. But I've even found ways to speed up my iPad because of the jailbreak through virtual memory and other things like that. So, jailbreaking is not a scary thing. You shouldn't fear it. You shouldn't have that concern about it. You can always put it back into its original state if needed. So that's, kind of my first episode. I've done some episodes in the past on jailbreaking, but I want to really spend some good time doing a series on jailbreaking, so there's a good resource out there for iPad users to learn about jailbreaking. Why would I do this, and what benefits would I have by doing this? And I thought this would be a great way to start it off by just saying, it's not going to be the end of the world if something goes wrong, because you can always restore it, and there's easy fixes for this kind of stuff, and it's really not a dangerous thing. So this episode, as I told you at the beginning, is designed to put you at ease and feel comfortable with jailbreaking. So with that said, if you would like to leave feedback, you can do that by emailing me at thepossibilitiesnetwork@gmail.com or iPadpossibilities@gmail.com. You can also call into 209-542-iPad, leave your voicemail, and I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do that by going to tppn.tv. becoming a member. Just click on the iPad Premium Podcast, and for $2 a month, you show your support and help me go more and more full-time as a podcaster. You will also gain extra access to episodes and early access to episodes as well. So check that out at tppn.tv. You can also go to the iTunes App Store and for $2.99 grab the iPhone application to listen to the podcast. It's released Monday, Wednesday, and Friday through that application. Otherwise, you have to wait till Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. So grab it today for $2.99. And with that said, you've been listening to the iPad Possibilities podcast on tppn.tv. And this is Tim, and I will speak to everyone again for the Friday, Saturday show later this week. Have a great week.